Joseph's father, Israel, loved Joseph more than any of his other children. Joseph was a son who'd come to him when he was older and through his favourite wife, Rachel. And so one day Israel gave Joseph a special gift that he'd had made for him, a beautiful robe, a special woven fabric with colours and patterns on it that shepherds don't normally wear. Of course, Joseph loved it, but his brothers hated it. It just showed them more that their father loved Joseph more than them. The thing that was the last straw, the thing that made Joseph's brothers really, really angry with him, that they wanted to get rid of him, was that one day he came to them and said, "Look, I've had a dream last night." And his brothers said, "Oh yeah, what sort of dream? What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, listen, it was a dream about us. We're all out in the field. We were tying up bundles of grain, just like we do in the harvest, so that they're easy to pick up and move. And suddenly my bundle just stood up and your bundles stood up, and then your bundles all gathered around me and they all bowed down to me." Well, Joseph's brothers said, What? Hey, no. Hey, so you think you're going to be our king, do you? Do you think we're going to actually bow down to you? You're just a little kid, all right? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. And not long after this, Joseph had another dream, and this made his father and mother angry as well. First of all, he told his brothers, he said, "Look, I've had another dream." They said, "Oh, not another dream. What are you dreaming about now?" He said, "Well, I had this dream that the sun and the moon and the stars bowed down to me." And this time, his brothers dragged him off to his mum and dad and said, "Hey, listen to this. Listen to what your son, who you love, is saying about you." And then Joseph told his father and mother the dream as well, in front of his brothers. His whole family was there listening to him. And in those days, people would see the sun as a symbol of the father and the moon as a symbol of the mother. And so his father scolded Joseph and said, "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? What kind of dream is this? Who do you think you are?" And so now Joseph's father was disappointed in his favourite son. His brothers would have been happy about that. His brothers stayed angry with him, probably got more angry. And that's interesting because his father went away and just thought about what Joseph had said and wondered what it could mean. Was this a message from God in Joseph's dreams? Jacob remembered that when he was younger, he'd had messages from God during the night as well. And God can still do that even with us today. Well, soon after this, Joseph's older brothers went off looking after sheep a fair distance away from the farmhouse at a place called Shechem. And after about a week, Israel came to Joseph and said, "Look, your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready and I'll send you to them and you can help." "I'm ready to go," Joseph replied. "Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along and come back and give me a report," Israel said. So Joseph travelled all the way to Shechem from their home in Hebron. And when he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside and said, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking for my brothers. There's 10 brothers and they're with a big flock of sheep. Do you know where they might be?" "Yes," the man said. "They've moved on from here, but I heard them say, 'Let's go on to Dothan.'" So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan. And it was while Joseph was there with his brothers that they did something so horrible to Joseph, to get back at him for all the anger that they had inside about him, about his father loving him more and giving him gifts that they didn't get, about their father loving Joseph's mother more than their mother, and about him bragging about dreams that he'd had where they bowed down to him. Are you kidding? And his father and mother bowed down to him. Anyway, we've run out of time. Come back next week and we'll find out what happened to Joseph. Hey kiddos, how are you? We have just heard a story, the next part of the story about Joseph, and I've got to admit that the coat that I drew for Joseph was not very spectacular. It's supposed to be an ornate, beautiful coat, I'm sure you can do a better job than that. So if you download the photocopy sheet for this week, you get a chance to do your own spectacular coat. You can either just colour in the one that's there, or you can use a blank one there to make your own design. And so I've just coloured one in here. I've done a better job than I did on the story. And I'm sure you can do better than this. And if you know how to email or text your picture to me, I'd love to see your high quality spectacular coat compared to mine. All right, so you can send that to c3churchwatson.com.au. Our website will tell you how to get that to me, and I'd love to see them. Right, the other thing that's on those printable sheets is a game, and this is what you need to play the game. So I've got the game board, can just sit by itself somewhere. You can use a breadboard. I've just found an old piece of board in the garage. I've taken some staples out of it so that it's clean and not sharp for anyone. And you take the spinner and you put that on the board somewhere. The spinner doesn't spin. So what you do need to spin is a drawing pin. A drawing pin would be a lot easier. We didn't have any drawing pins in our house. So I've got a nail, and I'm just going to put that nail in, or you can put the drawing pin into the middle of the spinner. Just a few little taps, and then I'm dropping a paper clip over the nail, and that's going to be the actual spinner. All right, so I'm going to put that on there, and now that'll spin around. And here I've got my game cards that I've cut out. That's from one of the pages as well. It's got Joseph and his brothers, and a whole lot of a couple of other people there as well. Now the idea is that I get my game cards and my game board, and then another player gets their game cards and their game board, and I decide where I'm going to place each of these people. So I'll just quickly randomly do that. I'm going to put Levi right over there in the corner. Judah, these are all Joseph's brothers. I've got two of Joseph. Zebulun. Everyone will get two of Joseph, by the way. He gets two because he's special. The whole story's about him. And Dan, Naphtali, there's Joseph again, down the bottom. Benjamin, his younger brother. And then Israel, his dad, Rachel, his mum, and the man in Shechem who told Joseph where he could find his brothers. He appears there as well. All right, so I've set them out like that. So I've made my game board, and your playing opponent can make their game board with a different layout. Okay, we take it in turn to spin, but the funny thing is, when we spin, both people move. This is what happens. I spin, and that's landed on Zebulun. All right, so I find Zebulun here, and I take Zebulun off my game board, and the other person or people, you might make 3-4 copies of this for your friends and family. They also take Zebulun off. So we've all taken Zebulun off, and we've left a space on the game board. All right. And then we spin again. The other person can spin this time, and they have landed on Dan. So we all take our Dan off. All right. And the idea is that we keep playing until somebody has 4 spaces in a row. It could be a straight up and down vertical row. It could be a side to side row, or it could be a diagonal row. All right, I'm going to keep spinning, and then we're going to speed this up into fast motion, and I'll keep going until I have 4 in a row. All right, here we go. Ready, Mr. Cameraman? They will slow down there. It's landed on Dream. Dream means that everybody can take one piece off anywhere on their car. All right, so that might be the one piece that you really need. I'm going to take Reuben off because that will give me 3 in a row, and I just need to land on Issachar. All right, back to fast motion. Stop there. Okay, I got Joseph twice, and now I have 4 in a row, and I can say Dreamo instead of bingo. Dreamo! And that means that I've won that round. Okay, then we can put these back on in a random position and have another go. All right, have a try with your family and see if you can remember any of the names of Joseph's brothers for next week. Okay, see ya.